The Houston Rockets just had another great NBA draft class, which makes it 2 years in a row where they've gotten some studs. With 7 first-round picks over the last 2 seasons. That's crazy. And 6 of them are going to play, for sure, including Jalen Green, the number 2 overall pick from last year's draft, who is probably the best player on this team right now. Of the 7, the only one I wouldn't think might not play is Eason Garuba. Rockets fans, let me know your thoughts on him down in the comments below. But this year they brought in TyTy Washington, they brought in Jabari Smith Jr., they brought in Tari Eason. For where they were drafted, those are all A-plus picks. I mean, they got them 4 or 5 picks, well, Jabari 2 picks, but 4 or 5 picks at least below where I thought they would go. With that being said, make sure to like button, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you do enjoy today's video at any point. And now let's go ahead and get started looking at, first, Jabari Smith Jr. We're going to look at all 3 of their rookies. 6'10", 220, 19 years old out of Auburn, averaged 17 points a game, 7.5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, 2 turnovers, shooting at 43% from the field and 40% from 3. He's got great length, decent handle, Kevin Durant-like scoring ability with his ability to just rise up over anybody. Great shooter. Like we just said, good mid-range game. Finishing could use a little help on both sides of the ball. Does struggle with forces at times and decision-making, and his passing is just not very good at sometimes. He tends to be a ball stopper as well at times, but at the end of the day, he's a great inside-out guy and extremely versatile on offense and the potential to be very versatile on defense as well. Now we got to talk about Tari Eason, who out of LSU at about 6'8", 215 pounds. He is already 21, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. 17 points a game, 6.5 boards last year at LSU, 52% from the field, 36% from 3. Got a great frame, very, very athletic, good defender, very strong. He does have some character or basketball IQ issues, which kind of forced him to fall down the board, which was the reason he wasn't a lottery pick. So the Rockets, they take the chance there, and they're going to get him. And then they also bring in TyTy Washington, who I thought, he was one of my favorite point guard prospects in this entire draft due to his ability to play out of the pick and roll and 4 assists per game as the secondary playmaker. Severe Wheeler was the point guard for that Kentucky team, and now as a secondary playmaker, he's going to come in and he's going to be a great backup point guard from day one for this Houston Rockets squad. Now, speaking of backup point guards, they just bought their other one out. John Wall opted into his, $50 million some dollar deal, it seems like. And so they agreed on a buyout. This was last night, and Wall is expected to sign with the Clippers, but the Celtics are going to throw him a 2-year, $20 million offer, as one of their biggest priorities this season is to get a true point guard. But John Wall is officially gone from the Houston Rockets. He's still on the salary cap table, but he's gone from playing for the Rockets. Now, a couple of trades that we got to talk about. KJ Martin walked up to the Rockets front office and was like, hey, we might need to trade me with the incoming number 3 overall pick, which turned out to be Jabari Smith Jr. They already moved on from Christian Wood just to clear up minutes from day one. And then Eric Gordon, another guy here, a veteran that a lot of teams, a lot of contenders, I feel like will pay a very high price to get another guy. I believe he averaged 15 a game last year on very good shooting numbers. So teams in contention would pay a very, very high price to bring in Eric Gordon. So I think you can capitalize on that sometime in this offseason or maybe at the trade deadline next year. Now let's take a look at the results of the Christian Wood trade. Of course, Christian Wood got sent off to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for 4 bench warmers and what ended up being TyTy Washington. So I think this is, best case scenario. TyTy falls this far and you're able to use that number 26 overall pick on him. That's perfect if you're the Rockets because you need that guy that's going to be able to play your backup point guard. Like we said, John Wall just bought out, and I think TyTy was probably the number 2 point guard in this draft, only behind Dyson Daniels, who went number 8 overall to the Pelicans. But he's going to be a great backup point guard from day one. We talked about just his ability to play out of the pick and roll. So I think at the end of the day, they capitalized on this very, very well, and the value was a lot more than I thought it was going to be when they traded for the 26th overall pick. Now, we do need to talk about this great backcourt real quick. Jalen Green is about to become an absolute megastar. You heard it here first, but this man is insane what he can do with a basketball. He's a slasher, but he can also dunk on anybody in the NBA. Look up his highlights. There's 10 minutes long of him just dunking everything. And then Kevin Porter Jr., who's made the transition over to point guard now. He brought his assist numbers way up, brought his turnovers down a little bit last year. So I think he's going to be a very suitable point guard option as well. Now, we talked about John Wall being gone. Their other point guard option, Dennis Schroder, he's probably going to be going out the door as well. Averaged 11 points, 6 assists, and 2.5 rebounds per game last year. I think you got to let him walk. They traded for him mid-season. The Boston Celtics, I think they gave TyTy to the Celtics. But Schroder, there's no need to bring him back. He does not fit your timeline whatsoever, and you already brought in TyTy Washington, so just let him play. Now, let's take a look at their potential lineup for next year. This is just what I think. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen at all. If you're a Rockets fan and I got it wrong, let me know down in the comments below. But the backcourt, we talked about it. It's going to be phenomenal. Kevin Porter Jr. at the guard spot. Jalen Green at the 2. I think that's one of the best young backcourts in the NBA. Between KPJ and Jalen Green. You got Jabari Smith Jr. down there at the 4. Jae'Sean Tate at the 3. That'll be interesting to see how he can run that position. And then Alperen Sengun, one of the least talked about rookies from last year. Given how good he played, I was surprised he wasn't getting more respect. But that's a glimpse at what the starting lineup could look like before free agency and before some more potential trades. The bench, of course, you got TyTy Washington at the backup point guard spot. Josh Christopher at the backup 2. I guess you would have to play Gordon at the backup 3 and Tari Eason at the 4. Although Garuba, who we're about to talk about, he could probably get some minutes at the backup 4. And then KJ Martin. You're going to have to find a backup 5 in free agency probably, with Theis being gone, so we'll see who that ends up being. But this is what the reserves are looking like right now. And of course, we still need to talk about Usman Garuba. Will he play next year? Huge question. Didn't play too much this year. He was, taken late in the first round last year and seen more so as a potential project type guy. This year he played in 19 games where he averaged 10 minutes per game and scored 2 points a game. So, nothing fantastic. 2 points a game is not great at all. So we'll see what ends up happening there if Garuba does end up getting some minutes. Now, they have an MVP on their roster. Trevelin Queen, I believe is how you pronounce it, was the MVP of the G League last year, averaging 22 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, 4.3 assists, and almost 3 steals per game. So I would like to see the Rockets get this guy some minutes heading into this season. Now, with that being said, that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts on the Rockets draft and such, and their offseason so far down in the comments below. Of course, let me know about Garuba if you're a Rockets fan. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure to like button and subscribe button. Post notifications because we're covering the entire NBA offseason. And with that being said, thanks so much for watching today's video.